those of you who don't know, to give you some perspective of what level we're talking to today. Pattie sang with Whitney Houston, Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson, Gladys Knight, Patti LaBelle, Luther Vandross, Brandy, Mary J. Blige, Madonna, Andre Crouch, Snoop.
Wow.
Hi, students. What's up, young Americans? My name is Mark Wahlberg. Not the one you were hoping for, but the only one you're getting today. I was a new kid in '81. I've made my career in television, starting in production and then on camera by a turn of events I didn't expect. And I have hosted over the years many TV shows. But I'm not going to waste time right now on that. You guys can Google me later. Just make sure you spell my name right, because if not, you get a much better Google result. But today, we get to talk to Pattie Howard. And I'm thrilled to fill in for Mark Cherry, who's a dear friend of mine who has some personal stuff that he couldn't be here and moderate this. So I'm jumping in the last minute. But you don't need a whole lot of prep when you're talking to somebody like Pattie. And my hope is that, that by sharing her story, personal and professional, that it gives you guys some understanding of a bigger picture beyond, you know, the young Americans. Because the young Americans, we do from our heart, and we do it for training, and we do what we do around the world. But y'all do what you do around the world. And not all of you are going to go on into a career in show business, but for those of you who are interested, this is well within that curriculum. And there's a lot that you may or may not be aware of that go into a career. And I'll start that. I'm really just, I'm padding a little bit, Pattie, until I get to you. But
perfect.
One of the things that is really important to note, and that's why Pattie is so great to talk to, is that it is hard to break into a career in show business, in any field, music, on camera, TV, film, whatever. But even harder than that is to have a career that lasts for more than 2 years, right? And that is something I need you really to get. That it's not good enough to break in and be good once, but what do you have in your arsenal, and what do you learn and bring with you and keep building on to keep you relevant and keep you able to make a check in a business of your choice for me it's 30 years, Pattie 40 maybe years?
Yeah.
Or more?
Yeah.
Which is impossible because she's only 35, but you know, that's how that goes. So let me introduce to you, hi Dave Klein. Let me introduce to you officially our guest today on Conversations with Alumni. We're happy to talk to Pattie Howard. Pattie Howard is her professional name. She was born to a different name in Cleveland, Ohio, just a few years ago. And Pattie, let's start back in Cleveland, because the first thing I see when I read up on you, and let me repeat myself for those of you just joining. I know Pattie the way all young Americans get to know other young Americans. We hear about them because of the work they did in the group and what they've gone on to be. We emulate them from afar, and then some event happens and we get to be in the same room and realize that we're in the same family, and that gift that alumni give to students happened back when I was in the group as a new kid, and is happening today. So I'm thrilled to be able to talk to Pattie. I've always had questions for her. We've hung out a little bit, but we haven't really gotten into it. So Cleveland, Ohio, first thing I see musically for you is that you are playing classical violin at 7 years old. Is that correct?
That is correct. I grew up in the poor neighborhoods of Cleveland, Ohio, and at that time there was a movement to give kids, all over Cleveland an opportunity to play music. So they had these instruments, at my elementary school, and they picked certain kids. I don't know what the criteria was, but I got chosen, and you could pick any instrument. And I had heard violins before, and for me, the sound of a violin pretty much covered everything. So I chose violin. I come from a musical family, and so I was always had a keen ear for music. So picked up the violin.
But when did you open your mouth and say, I've got an instrument here?
Okay, see, now that's the thing, and we won't stay on this long. My family sings, so singing was just something that we did. But I did not plan on being a singer.
Mm.
I wanted to grow up and become the scientist that invented things.
Mm.
So singing was something that I had to do because my family did it. Not that I didn't like singing. I love the music, but I liked taking things apart and putting them back together more. So
We'll get into how science comes into your life a little later on in life, and that really speaks to what we need to do as professionals in any career of diversifying. The more we know, the more valuable we are.
Exactly.
And Pattie proves that, because we're not pretty and young for all our lives. So although you are still pretty and young, but we have to find a way to be relevant and hireable. But what I find interesting is you came from a family of singers, and I did to some degree as well. So there's always music in the house, and you're singing all the time. But what I want to know is, when you open your mouth to sing, and the rest of your family sings, so it's normal, and you got no hang up about it. You're just doing your thing. But at what point in your life did you say, wait a minute, not everybody sings like me. I can do this. I sing.
Yeah. So here's the thing. There are people that are really confident in what they do, and they know they can sing, they know, all of that. I was a shy person, very shy. Not confident, not very confident. And my family moved to California when I was a senior in high school. So right out of high school, I became a part of a group where there were the most incredible, amazing singers. And I met Vaughn in that group. That was a group that her brother had. And Vaughn began to tell me about the Young Americans. And so I would go to some rehearsals with her, and I was like, oh my God, these people are so happy. There's a happy people here, and the music was diverse, which I was,
Interested in.
Yeah, very interested in that. And there was just this feeling of family and all of that. So I'm trying to move along to the Young Americans, because the Young Americans actually played a huge part in me making a decision to really explore my vocal ability. Being in the Young Americans gave me the opportunity Milton gave me the opportunity. First of all, I allowed him to push me because I was.
Let me just interject real quick and say, for the young kids in here, Milton is Milton C. Anderson, the founder and director of the Young Americans for many, many years until he retired and since has passed on. So folks like Pattie and I, when we got in the group, that was our director. Yes. And that's who kind of formed us. Go ahead, Pattie. I just want to catch people up.
Okay, yeah, because in other singing situations, I was just a part of the group. I was a part of a member of my family. I was a member of the group that I was in with Vaughn's brother and Vaughn. In the Young Americans, I became Milton Anderson. I guess he heard what I couldn't hear, and he saw my lack of confidence, and so he started right in on me in the area of confidence. He didn't even give me a choice. Before I was a new kid, he just kind of said, all right, I'm gonna make you an official Young American. I want you to try. He would just, Milton would just, we're all sitting in the room, and he would just say, pick someone and say sing, and you had to sing.
I have the same story. He said pick 5 people and said talk.
Yeah.
He didn't say sing, but he said talk, and that was my career.
So
yeah. So he saw something special in you off the bat, and then in the Young Americans, which is only a couple years for you, I think, you were able to develop this confidence and your talent. So if you can briefly tell me who you were when you came in and who you were when you left as a performer.
When I came in, I was 90-pound trembling, shaking. You could hear my bones clacking. If any attention was paid to me or if Milton asked me to sing, I was just like, ooh, and just not confident. Didn't really know the full scope of my range or what I could do. When I left the Young Americans, I could stand in front of anyone and sing a solo. Prior to that, it was terrifying for me. I was more comfortable just being a part of a group.
So this is really key, you guys. So there was never an issue with Pattie about an instrument. She had it, right?
Right.
But just because you have an instrument doesn't mean you're going to be the performer, that relevance I spoke to. So in Young Americans, you grow up and under direction, you realize that you can do this. You get some time on stage with the mic in your hand to work it out.
Yes, so, you get that, and you're surrounded by a huge family of supportive people. That right, that part was so. I mean, I'm still friends with all of these people now. So
as we all are, who are in the group, and then as you go out into the world, you realize not everybody comes from that same school.
Right.
But having that support group around you, even somebody you can reach out to, can certainly help you through those times. So can you tell me now, after your time in the Young Americans starts to end, where do you go professionally from that point? Did you know I'm doing this, or were you thinking I'll just go teach or pursue science? Or
actually, for me, it was a little different because I had some health problems that began to manifest. So, which is one of the reasons I didn't go on the Richard Rodgers tour. I ended up with some problems and in the hospital and stuff like that. So, you know, once again, here I was looking at that I had some obstacles that could get in my way. So again, singing still hadn't become the number one thing. Back to the group that I was singing with Vaughn. So here and there, we would get called for some recording sessions. Again, I was comfortable in singing back up with a group. And when it was a recording session with, it had something to do with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And so we went and sang it.
And the way in there is that Vaughn, who had been in the group before you, were talking about Vaughn Seal Faggett, who was in the group before you, had already gone on and started working as a studio singer. Is that correct?
Yes, she had.
So she brings you in, and now you're Earth, Wind, and Fire. Go there.
Yeah, I get into the singing group that she's in, that her brother's group, and that's what they did. So then we do some recording, and I got my first. I joined after through that session, and I got my first check. At the time, I was working at Miller's Outpost and some other stuff, selling, Miller's Outpost.
For sure,
I got my first check and realized that it was more than I made in for one day and a few hours than I made in a week.
For sure.
And for me at that time, because of how I was assisting my family, that took precedence. So I said, okay, I could do this for a while, and then I'll go to school, because I wanted to go to MIT. I'll do this for a while, and then I'll go to school. So, but again, it took being in groups like the Young Americans and Vaughn's brothers group, and then because I still had to, again, I had some health issues, so I had to push. I had to learn to believe in myself. I had to know how to show. I had to learn how to show up. I had to learn how to be professional.
So let's talk about that. So you go from the Young Americans. Your friend Vaughn brings you in on this in their group, but that's still family. And now you're in a studio getting paid to lay down tracks for Earth, Wind, and Fire. Tell me what you learned in those, if you can, if you remember any mistakes you made. Tell me what mistakes you made in the professional environment and what you learned about being a professional singer, especially a background singer in those early days, that might help these guys.
Yeah, the first thing I learned was that if you're coming for a session, which I was on time, and all of that, but I was, again, like this mad scientist person. So I saw all this equipment. So I had a lot of questions. I learned immediately in a professional setting. You come in to do the job that you're hired to do. You don't ask a lot of questions. You know, you smile, you know, you have a great personality, and you come in, you do the job, you carry yourself professionally, and then you go home.
Because
go ahead.
have you seen singers who are on your caliber, you know, because there are a lot of voices.
Yes.
But have you seen singers come into the business and don't get it, and because of the professionalism or lack of the professionalism, they're gone?
Exactly. It doesn't matter how you could be the most there were singers that could sing circles around me, but it's not just having the talent. It's not just having a great voice. It's having the right personality. It's knowing how to carry yourself professionally. It's knowing when to speak, when not to speak. It's not this thing of, oh wow, we can sing, or I can play an instrument, or I can do that. It's a job like everyone else gets up and goes to work every day, and they have a job, and those jobs have a certain criteria. The music industry is no different. It just has its own set of rules. So I had to learn very quickly what those rules were, and to be able to carry myself accordingly. Now, yes, you have to have talent. You absolutely do. But you can have all the talent in the world and not understand where you are, and know how to carry yourself. And as you said, you'll be home before the session is over.
Because in business, the people who hired you have a problem they need to have solved.
Yes.
When you get called in, Patty, the problem is to lay down a track that's going to be a hit.
Exactly.
And the stars of that track are going to do their thing, and they can throw whatever tantrum you want.
Mm-hmm.
But those of us who are supporting have to know our role and do it well, so that the problem gets solved. And if we're part of that team, we get the call to come back. Did you find that people started calling you after that first session?
Say it again.
Did people start calling you for work after that first session with Earth, Wind & Fire?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
So you went on to sing in studio, but on many gold and platinum records. But you also were background singer for many, many artists. And for those of you who don't know, to give you some perspective of what level we're talking to today, Pattie sang was on the road at the height of Whitney Houston's career. Whitney Houston being possibly one of the greatest singers that has ever walked this planet. And she gets to choose any 3 or 4 voices to be behind her. And it says something that the best voice on the planet at the time wants Pattie to be back there making her better. So Whitney Houston, Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson, Gladys Knight, Patti LaBelle, Luther Vandross, Brandy, Mary J. Blige, Madonna, Andre Crouch, Snoop, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, and we'll waste all our time listing your credits. Mm-hmm. But what do you think the key to your success being, besides the fact that you have the voice and the musicianship? Mm-hmm. Well, and let's talk about that a minute. Beyond the voice, how much does your musicianship come into play in that line of work?
Oh, it plays into it incredibly, because I played violin, then I could sight read, you know. So I also had a skill, which at that time, a lot of singers didn't have that. So that gave me a little plus. Even if you can't read, having the ability to hear parts, to be able to pick it up quickly and then execute it, to understand what a producer or someone is saying to you, asking you for, even if they don't speak singer language, being able to interpret what is needed and then being able to give that. That is why I was able to work.
All right, y'all, students, that was a golden nugget right there.
Yeah.
Right, that was a golden nugget. Because, and I'm going to ask you a question about ego in a second. Mm-hmm. Because when you show up to work in a professional situation, you don't get to control who's pulling the trigger.
No.
And they may not have the same artistic vision you have. They may know nothing about music.
Right.
But you have to somehow find what they're saying and give it to them.
Yes.
Tell me how you, as a background singer, mm-hmm. put your ego aside, or do you put your ego aside to give them what you want, even when it's against what you think musically it should be?
Absolutely. Humility Confidence, absolutely necessary. You have to couple that with humility, though, because again, the things in the music industry work so fast. If you look at it like this, at the time we were recording, let's say when we worked on Man in the Mirror, Michael Jackson was huge, but Man in the Mirror wasn't a hit yet because we were still doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's songs that Whitney was doing. Let me go back a little further to like when we were in Young Americans, like the Emotions songs that they did. We actually laid out the demos for those songs. So at that time, those artists weren't, you know, the hope was that they would have #1 hits. So those producers, they're not playing at all and the hours and what it costs to produce these projects. You know, they wanted people that to come in, that could follow directions, who had a pleasant attitude, you know, that could be humble, and just do what they're asked to do. Because most of us that are creative people, we hear other ideas and then we want to interject that and, you know, whatever. No, you're going to work, you're being paid to do a job. You have to be humble enough to take direction, even if you don't like the person that's giving it to you or if they got a bad attitude. I mean, I was in a session and I can't even repeat how I was talked to, but this was just the way this gentleman taught. And it's like every time he said something, I felt like, well, ouch, oh, you know. But I had to stand there, smile, and interpret what he was wanting to get, and then we had to give them that.
There's so much I want to ask you. I want to ask you about that as it relates to going on tour as opposed to in the studio, but I want to skip forward because we're already at 6:30 and I want to open up to questions here. We'll double back. But I talked earlier, I found it in my career, Pattie's a living example of, if you have one great skill that gets you in the door and you make a living on that for some time, how do you keep going? How do you keep going as things change? Mm-hmm. Pattie, you now have a production company, PH Balance Entertainment, PH Production, excuse me.
Music, yeah.
Yeah. Where you're one-stop shop, songwriting, arranging, recording, mixing, all of that. And going back to your want to be a scientist, what turned the corner for you into sort of that engineer role as opposed to the vocalist?
Wanting to be a scientist.
I see.
Understanding.
But did you just teach yourself Pro Tools?
Yes, I did. So understanding that the world was going into the digital age, and understanding that was based on algorithms and FM synthesis and all of these different things that would, of course, catch my ear. So the computer side of me naturally gravitated towards the computer side of music. So that was kind of like, for me, that was kind of like a no-brainer. I was fascinated with science. So when music and science did like this, when I understood that it did like this.
Well, music is math.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, you know. I just had what I understood it to be. But when all of that clicked, so then it was the perfect marriage, you know, the music and the science.
So students, what you can take away from that is God may give you talent, and then you now have to generate drive, and the more you learn, the more valuable you are. Mm-hmm. So nobody said, hey, Pattie, I don't know how long this phone's gonna ring for you to sing. You better go learn Pro Tools and get behind that sound equipment and figure this out.
Oh yeah.
You took that on.
Let me say this too. And when we got called for sessions, when you get called for a job, they're gonna give you some kind of idea of what style or something like that the music would be. What I would do is go listen to something in that category. I go listen to if that artist had done something before. You have to be proactive. You have to be, it's always learning, always being open to teaching yourself or just being proactive. You can't just say, oh, I'm this great singer and they're just gonna discover me and it's gonna happen. It's a lot of work and you have to put in the time and the work.
And to speak to that, your background as a vocalist was R&B, gospel, that kind of stuff, pop. And then one of the first albums that you produced was classical piano.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's about.
Well, actually, yeah. One of the first albums that I produced that wasn't my own project was this, and they sent me a piano file. That was it. And said, create a song around this. So I'm saying, so in that, what I'm saying is someone saw the potential in me to be able to do that. Now, but I had to actually put in the work and figure out how to get it done. So, the thing is, I think that a key thing to tell the students is this, and this is what I haven't seen fail in any situation that I've been in: confidence, humility, being smart enough to listen and surround yourself with people that know the business. I had a couple of mentors as well, but I made it a point to make sure that I carried myself a certain way so that those people would want to pour it to teach me. And being teachable. If you don't have those things, you're not gonna make it in. I mean, that part right there, you're just not gonna make it in the music industry.
I have so many more questions, but I want to give a chance to open up the floor with the half hour that we have remaining before you're off, to you students. And, as a moderator, and I moderate a lot of stuff over the years, like corporate and TV and whatever, the biggest fear is opening up for questions and nobody has one. So your assignment is to have one. Okay. So let's open it up, Christine, and see if great. Logan, I think it's Logan, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
We got you. What's your question, pal?
All right, this is kind of a personal question, but my idol was Michael Jackson. One of my first jobs was impersonating him. What was it like working with the King of Pop, or working to do his album? What was that like?
It was he was Michael Jackson, so it was amazing. Just to find myself there in a room, and there he was, and just that all of that was even happening. He was everything that I imagined who he was. He was that humble, greatest man. Just, you could just like, if there's such a thing as feeling love come out of someone, he had that. And that's the thing that I remember the most about him. Was just that he was his childlike faith, the love that he exuded, and he was a genius.
So musically, we should believe the hype. He was great.
Oh, he was brilliant.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I saw it for myself. He was brilliant. His ears, what he heard, what he could hear.
Wow.
He was just
I have
brilliant.
a funny story about Michael Jackson that I'm going to tell you because it has to do with the Young Americans.
Okay.
So many years ago when the Young Americans toured, there was a manager, Jim Morey, who was one of our managers, I think, back in the day. Years later, I had dinner with Jim, and he also managed Michael for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he was up at the Neverland Ranch with Michael, and they're taking a walk around the Neverland Ranch around dusk. And Jim says to Michael, "Man, it is so peaceful here. It's so quiet. It's almost like the crickets are louder here." And Michael smiled, reached to his side and picked up a radio and said, "Johnny, turn down the crickets." I always love that story. Another question, anybody out there? Questions, you guys? Yes. Say your name because I can't see it.
I'm Chloe, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm so much having fun with that. My question is, how did you build your confidence, after, being with younger Americans is of course building confident experience, but I feel like it's kind of scary for me to get out, go outside of the younger Americans. So I wonder how I can do that.
Well, all I can tell you is this. I gained more confidence in the Young Americans, but even when I got out of the Young Americans, every time I had to be in front of an audience and be that solo singer or whatever, that little element of anxiousness was there, because it's actually, it's just a fear of the unknown, as with anything else. I can tell you this, you just be as much of you and as much of you as you can embrace every time you have to sing, and also know that there isn't a professional artist that I've worked with that every time before they go on that stage, they don't have that same feeling. Every single artist I've ever worked with has that same feeling, no matter how huge they get. So sounds like you're going in the right direction.
I used to deal with nerves too, because most of the time I'm on stage, there's nothing prepared and I'm just going out there to talk. And I had a big shift in my thinking, and Pattie, speak to this if it rings to you, that my nervousness was about how I'm going to be perceived by the audience.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I flipped it to me giving a gift to the audience, the pressure is off of me. If I'm giving love to the crowd, whatever form that is, even if I mess up, it's not about me at all.
Exactly.
So
you're absolutely right.
that's how I get through it. Any other questions out there, kids? Anybody got a question? No? So
I have a question.
yes, Lee.
Pattie, were you on tour with Michael, or were you in the studio with Michael?
I did studio work with Michael. I wasn't on any other tours.
And but you did tour with different artists.
That's what I was going to ask next. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What in the studio as opposed to what you pack in your kit when you're going? Oh, I'm breaking up. Oh, let me turn off my camera.
Okay, say the first part again, Leaf. It was breaking up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
When you are said, okay, you're going to go out on the road, what do you put in your skill set box and take with you? And how is that different than what you put in your skill set box when you're going to go into the studio?
Okay. Well, again, my skill set had to be specific. Everybody has, challenges. So I had my challenges, but the same mindset that I had to take into the studio, I had to take everywhere I went when I walked out of my door to do anything that had to do with singing. Because see, the mentality a lot of times in the industry is that, that phrase, singers come a dime a dozen, right?
Well,
there's so many great singers out there, and I coined this phrase, when someone would say that to me, and I would say, well, no, singers, we come at an after rate and after scale. It's understanding the business side of it. But what I had to take with me in terms of being on the road, to even be able to have the opportunities to go on the road, I had to take care of myself physically. I had to make sure that I always, whenever I stepped outside to go somewhere, I had to look a certain way. There's a whole skill set that I don't know that we have time to talk about, that you must have.
And more now than ever before.
Oh my gosh, as a singer, a solo singer, or if you become a background singer or whatever it is that you do, it's not just talent, it's an actual skill to every aspect of it. And again, being in the Young Americans I don't want to get away from that, because had I not been in the Young Americans, I don't know that I would have been prepared for the opportunities that I had beyond the Young Americans, because first of all, I was so shy that I never would have spoken up for somebody to even hear me. You know what I'm saying? So you have to take care of yourself physically. Your health is important. Yeah. Learning how to communicate with people, to talk with people, staying humble, learning as much as you can about singing, learning as much as you can about notes and chords and progressions, listening to different types of music, and not becoming having such a huge ego just because your check gets so big that it changes you.
Uh-huh.
Patty, when
developing a
you're on the
network
road,
around yourself.
when you're on the road, I want you to speak. Let me back it up.
Mhm.
You young Americans are going to get a chance to tour, hopefully, when the world opens. And the tour experience is great for you because you have to lift, you have to move, you have to unload. It's a humbling experience. It's teamwork, and it's great. But you're also in the bubble of we're going to eat together, we're going to go to our homestays, we're going to get back on the bus. You're going to be taken care of. Talk, if you will, Pattie, about what there is out on the road that's trouble and what professional discipline, because nobody's policing you on the road. And everybody's trying to get you to do everything you probably shouldn't be doing for your career. Talk about what professional discipline means to success.
It means everything, because if you don't, in the process of touring and getting where you're going, I mean, the goal is what ends up happening on that stage. So if you don't take care of yourself and the things that precede that, then once you're on that stage, you're not going to be able to give your best, and it's going to be obvious. So there are rules to touring. There are guidelines to follow. You know, being on time for flights, making sure.
It's not a small thing. People lose jobs on this quick.
Oh my God, you'll be left. I know a singer that got left in England. So, you know, you just have to, you can't.
They call it, on a bus and truck, they call it being oil spotted.
There you go.
The bus leaves and nothing's left but the oil spot and you.
Right. So I guess what we're saying is discipline. You know, the discipline to take care of yourself, be on time, be a part of the crew or the family, whatever, you know, whatever your responsibilities are, making sure you do that, making sure you're on time when a lobby call happens. If they say you got to be in the lobby at 3 a.m, then be there at 2:30 or 2:45. It's not just being on time, it's being early. It's showing initiative. It's showing this professional attitude that you care about everything that has to do with this tour or with this, you know, this performance, and giving that your best.
Really important. It shows up in every career that you will pursue. So you may never go on the road as a singer. You may never tour with a name artist, but those things that Pattie just spoke to will apply to every single job you show up to in your life. And by the way, what Pattie is giving you today and what you will learn in the Young Americans, you won't see until you're out in the world what an advantage you have over those who want your job.
Yes.
Because we work from a place of humility and being humble, and everybody does what everybody does. When you get out in the world, your breadth of knowledge will be beyond your years. And that's the kind of stuff that Pattie had organically when she left the group. She shows up at the studio, she had a breadth of knowledge how to be, where another person with her voice would not have been as successful.
Yeah.
That's fair to say, huh, Pat?
Absolutely. I've seen younger people, I've worked with younger people, I've watched them go into situations, not being willing to, you know, wanting to do things their way, wanting to, you know, I want to stay true to my music, I want to stay true to who I am. And well, the music industry is true to what it is, and you have to work your way up to a place where you're not going to walk in and call any shots. You're just not. So that whole thing of what you'll learn in the Young Americans is, and which is so key. Again, I can't express that enough. Me having the opportunity to learn how to work with so many different people and so many different personalities, and then we all get to come together on that stage in the Young Americans and do this show, and we're doing it in concert with each other. And, you know, no matter what was going on or who was mad at it, anybody or whatever, that show begins, and there we are, and it's a great show. All of those different people, all of those different personalities, all the different scenarios, that prepared me. That's what I was trying to say at the beginning, for when I went out into the music world, where it's even harder. But I had the tools I needed to recognize and see certain things, and, you know how to carry myself and carry my gift and give my gift to the job, as opposed to just trying to take from the job.
Any more questions out there? You guys jump in and ask anything. Even stupid questions are great. We learn from every single question.
Hey, Mark, it's Brooke Aston Harper. I had my hand raised. I'm so sorry, kids.
Hi,
Hi, Patty. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I am a new kid 93, and I am currently on the faculty. And I just love what you said about being a lifelong learner, and I love all the things that you said about the Young Americans and how it really affected your life. Do you have any plans to maybe work with our current kids on anything?
I think there's an arrangement out there already, isn't there?
Yes.
It was a leading question.
Yes.
Tell us about that, Patty.
Well, I am part of a team of it's all alumni, correct, Leaf?
That's right.
I'm a part of a team of alumni producers, songwriters, and whatever. Great, the Kleins and some other musicians, and we are putting together. I think what the end result will be is a video project. And Leaf, again, see, again, I'm the mad scientist on the team, so my focus has been the music or whatever. I may not know all the details of what it's for, but I absolutely am a part of putting together something that is, it's fantastic. That will also be for the new kids, correct?
Well, everybody, the new kids it'll be an introductory vehicle for the new kids this year, but we are also inviting everybody else to sing backup for the song. So the new kids will have all the solos, and they'll sing the different solo lines from wherever they are. You know, if they live in Akron, Ohio, we're sitting in front of the sign that says, "Welcome to Akron, population 52,000," and they'll sing their song, or wherever they want to be, cornfields, mountaintops, snow-capped mountains, Logan, wherever. And then all alumni from 60s all the way till now, and even those who aren't even negative alumni who are still waiting to join their new kids year, we'll send out the music to them that Patty's putting together the vocals for, and then everybody can film themselves, send it in. Brooke's going to be instrumental in helping everybody do the best job they can in recording themselves, because a lot of people don't know how to do that. And so, but Patty's been putting together, it's like 12 minutes long, all kinds of amazing sounds and music. So we're going to have to, I don't know how we're going to cut it down, Patty, but we can't have 12 minutes. So
it's already done, already taken care of.
Oh,
Leave it to the scientist.
he's fast.
Leave it to the scientist. Any questions out there, guys? Logan, did you have your hand up? Go ahead, pal.
So when you were talking about like your instruments and how, like, you know, like you said, to be a backup singer, like you gotta have the right ear for it when it comes to tuning with other people, tuning with styles that you're not particularly fond of, but you always have to like tune your ear. Like, what like sets you apart with that, with your tuning? Like, did you just have the ear for it? Were you were just born and you could hear something and you just had the ear for it to be able to become like one of those famous, to become a background singer for these famous artists? And of course the work ethic is also a main factor as well.
Well, we all have ears, and so it was just really, it was learning to hear, to listen to not just my own voice when I was singing. When you're doing backup vocals, you're a part of a group, whether it's 3 singers, 6, 9, or if it's a choir. And the important thing you have to remember is to listen to the people on either side of you, and to learning to blend with those voices, because the key to the best sounding background vocals is that unit of people. They sound like one. They sound like they've been singing together forever. And the way to accomplish that when you're walking into a session with people you're just meeting is you have to listen to their tones, how they're singing, what the rate of their vibrato is going. And so we do that. That's why I say there's a whole skill involved and the more you do it, the easier it gets. And you just learn how to blend with the person on either side of you. That's an important tip. All the singers that I ended up working with, that was a major skill that they had.
That is
Thank you. Thank you.
not a skill that necessarily everyone has, but it can be groomed and worked on, right?
I was taught, yeah, it was something I was taught to do. Yeah, I didn't like just come here knowing how to do that. I actually, and Vaughn's brother trained a bunch of us to learn how to do that. And again, in the Young Americans, we had to, like for Rainbow, take that song for instance, and it's with its ups and downs and airy parts and parts that are strong. You know, we had to listen to each other for that sound to end up being what it is. So just practicing that or being aware of that when you're singing with other people.
Anybody else in the last few minutes we have? Any questions? Yes, Carson, I think it is.
Yeah. Just a throwaway question, but what type of science are you, or were you scientist did you want to be? What science are you interested in? I love science.
Quantum physics.
What?
She wants the connection between science and the spiritual. Quantum physics. Fantastic. Anybody else? Any other questions out there? No? Pattie, you now in your job running pH Balance, what do you look for? If somebody comes to you and wants to record and you're in the director's seat, how do you groom somebody? What are the things you're looking for and say that kid might be able to do something here?
Well, pH Balance Music was set up to mentor and teach. Literally, that's why the company exists, and to give, to keep passing it on what I learned how to do. So I looked for young artists that had a passion, that have a passion to become what it would take for them to make a mark in the music industry. I won't take someone on that doesn't have, that ability, because it could end up being a painful experience for them when they're rejected. So I try to work with younger people or artists that I can see that they have the potential within them to go as far as they're gonna go. When you've done with Mark, when you've done some things in the music industry, you're able to give people coming into the music industry to be able to help them skip over some stuff, So they come into, again, when you come into the Young Americans, you're coming into a group that has a history, that has they're known globally, and over generations, so you got a head start right there because you got something in your resume that people can relate to. So pH Balance Music does that same thing. If I won't take someone on that, I'm not gonna tell someone, oh, you can make it, and they can't sing, or they, you know what I mean? So I just look for artists that are passionate about it, that I can see the potential, and they're willing to learn. They want to learn, and they will listen.
Pattie, I got about 5 minutes with you, so I want you to quickly tell me what was the most outrageous experience on the road as a performer that you can think of, like something that either scared you or blew your mind or something like that. Can you share something from the road that we might know?
I can share my worst. Well, I don't know if I should share my worst experience.
Those are the best. Come on.
Oh, come on.
Come on.
My worst experience was having to get into the crash position on a plane.
With the whole
My worst nightmare.
With the whole cast and crew?
With the LA portion of the Whitney Houston band.
No, no.
Oh my God.
Yes.
And then you didn't have to do a show
Asked
that.
me for the worst, so
Yeah,
that
that's
was it.
pretty bad. What was the biggest crowd you ever played to?
Oh, it was over 100,000. I don't know. The greatest experience I had for me was the Whitney Houston HBO South Africa concert. There were 80,000 people, but more importantly, this was a concert. This wasn't just a concert. It was the first time that there was a mixed audience.
Oh.
Wow.
It was the end of apartheid, and it was the release. It was to support the release of Mandela. So we were actually over there as ambassadors from the United States. So it was, and it was Africa. So for me, that was just mind blowing. And to see that many people, and to see all the races, different races of people come together, and there was not a single incident. I mean, they flew FBI, CIA, there were over 350 people that they flew over there just for this concert.
Mm.
So to see a world changing, to be a part of something that was changing the world, you see this like, oh, what is that? How did I get here? I was, I was in the projects, and we were poor, and there's Mandela and Winnie, and and then this is Whitney, and and this is Africa. So for me, that was, ooh, I don't even have words.
But Susan,
Historical.
you get from this interview, I'm sure you get that young girl who had a confidence problem in the Young Americans, who then overcomes that with the help of Milton, and then shows up to that Earth, Wind, and Fire session, had enough going on from the Young Americans, what she'd learned, to stay in the lane, do her job, be great at it, be open, be listening, and look where it takes you, or can take you. So then
I can honestly say that if it were not for the opportunity that I had to sing Take My Hand, and having to be one of, whatever solo it is that you have these people, these historical people behind you in the Young Americans, and now you're that person. If it had not been for that moment right there alone in Petoskey changed my life forever.
I'm with you. I remember going to Petoskey, which is where we had our summer program, you guys, and they took us to see the Boyne show.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kids that were older doing that Boyne show. And I remember looking and saying, I can really enjoy this show because I don't have to think of myself ever being good enough to do that. I'm never, ever going to be at that level until next summer when I'm and that's really about the growth that happens. Pattie, you got 2 minutes, and I like to be on time because that was one of the things you taught us as a professional. So I want to thank you.
Be early.
Yeah.
Try to be early.
On time is late.
Yeah.
Pattie, thanks for taking time out from your busy schedule and sharing your journey with us, and students. Thanks for your questions as well. I'm going to say goodbye to you, and I love you, and I wish you health and happiness, and I'm glad I got a chance to chat with you.
I love you guys too. Anytime.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Pattie. You can just hit that leave.
What do I do?
For the rest of you, I thank you because I wasn't supposed to moderate this. I was asked at the last minute, which, by the way, is the story of my Young Americans career. I never got the solo first, but I'm there at the end.
Legend.
I'm only joking, but kids, I'm glad to have had a chance to be here with you. Know that you're getting into a fraternity, a family that supports one another. And as you go out in the world, Leaf can speak to this. He's been in the movie business and has worked. Christina's in the TV business. Dave's in Nashville. We have honed our craft to get to the point where we can be hireable, but then everywhere we show up, there's somebody that knows our lineage and has got our back. So you join this sort of integrated family that, you do right by it, it does right by you. And because none of us can really get to where we want to go by ourselves. I'll turn over to Leaf and Christine or anybody else. I think that's 7 on the dot. And
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much.
You're our hero, Mark.
Oh no, listen.
Thank you, Mark.
Happy to be of service. I'm gonna go have dinner with my wife.
Andy, do you need to say anything to the kids?
Andy, do you need to say anything to the kids?
You know, I was saying so much, but I was muted. You missed the moment.
Darn.
But Josh, it's great to see you kids here. And yes, we are going to get ourselves going next fall. Josh, I'll wait for Brian to get set up that Zoom so you and I can talk more. And then there's some other things coming down the line. The work that Pattie just mentioned. So we're doing a lot of things. And again, I noticed most of you were on the Zoom last time. If you need any questions, you want to know what we're doing, just give me an email and I'll get back to you. I'm just moving so fast that I didn't even find my email that Christina had sent about this Zoom, and I had to ask for it again. So you just happened to call me. Hang in there. We're going to do some great things. There's something really, really big coming up at Christmas time, and we're going to call you and need you. So be ready.
And also, you know, these ideas that we have, like this Conversations with Alumni and like the song that we're putting together, Brooke is going to be coordinating all different kinds of projects. And if you have ideas or things, especially Josh or Logan, for kids that are in your position who may be feeling really out of the loop, anything that we can do to widen the loop or make it happen that way. Carson, are you in classes right now?
Yeah, I'm at Fullerton just taking some gen eds.
Okay, so but you're not at the Young Americans College right now?
No.
Okay, so the same thing with you and Chloe, you know, anything that you can suggest that you think might be a good idea, let us know, large or small, crazy or not.
Yeah, keep an eye out, you guys. Make sure we have your updated email, or that you still have access to your Young Americans email, because we will be communicating in the next 6 weeks about a lot of opportunities for those of you who came in last fall. So please, please, please make sure you're still checking that email.
Yeah.
So with our Young American accounts that we got, are they disabled or are we still good to get back on them? Because I didn't know.
They should all still be good. And check,
Okay.
Send me an email. If not, when we talk, we'll make sure we activate it. And that goes for everybody else. All we need to do is just activate it as soon as you call us and let us know.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine, for arranging everything.
Welcome. You're welcome. Frozen. The cast of Frozen is coming up sooner than later.
Yeah, 27th. That's a Sunday, which is a little different, but that works for them. And by the way, your teacher, Brooke, is also in the cast of Frozen. So she's got all this personal experience to tell you as well. So we're going to have cast members, but we're also going to have the musical director, John Gladini, who got in group in the mid-'80s. And he'll have lots of great stories to tell, being in front of an 80-piece orchestra, putting together all the tracks for the show. And he's quite a musician. So in addition to the 4 performers, Brooke will answer questions and John will answer questions on a more musical side. It'll be delicious. We can't wait.
Awesome.
Okay.
So we'll see you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Hello. Bye, Carson. Bye, Logan.